A long, long time ago on a continent far, far, far away from England and its ruling tyrannical monarch, King George III, a small band of what today would be called rebels decided it was time to stand up to the monarchy that ruled over them, taxing them incessantly, and continuing without pause or interruption, and pillaging the new land's treasures. These rebels called themselves the Sons of Liberty, and were led by Samuel Adams. It was on Thursday evening, December 16th, 1773, that in Boston, Massachusetts, the winds of change were set in motion. In an evening raid, dressed as Indians, they overtook 3 English vessels sitting in the harbor and emptied their precious cargoes of tea into the dark waters. And so, the Boston Tea Party sent a huge message to the King of England: no taxation without representation, and so set forth the beginning of what we know now as the Revolutionary War. 55 representatives from 12 colonies formed the First Continental Congress in September 1774. They had 2 primary functions. 1. They drafted the Articles of Association, which basically said to the British King, "We don't want your imports and you aren't getting anything from us." This was a direct reaction to the Intolerable Acts of 1774, enacted upon the colonies by the British government. These were acts that took away certain rights from the colonists, such as the rights to elect officials, and eliminated all local justice. No small town deputies or police officers here. No way. Total British rule. The act also closed the Boston port to all vessels, no matter what type of business the ship may have had with the colony. No food, no supplies, nothing could get into the Massachusetts colony. Today we have done similar things to other countries we consider a danger. For instance, we still have an embargo on everything Cuban. The last thing and most objectionable part of the acts were to require that troops be housed in occupied homes. This act was in fact the basis for the Third Amendment of the Constitution, which prohibits troops from living in a home without the permission of the owner. You might recognize some of the famous names who sat in the First Congress: John Adams, Samuel Adams, William Livingston. No, not that William Livingston. And of course, George Washington, who would later become the first general of the U.S. Army and then our first president. The second thing the First Congress did was to provide for a Second Continental Congress, whose job it would be to plan further action if the British government did not repeal or change the Intolerable Acts. One thing this Congress did that you may find interesting was to form a secret committee. This secret committee included some of our most influential and esteemed members of the Congress, Benjamin Franklin being one of them. It was the job of this secret organization to gather up military supplies, gunpowder, and guns for a possible revolt. They did this on the down low. Yes, spies, secret agents. With everything in place and the king not backing down from his stance on the New World, the revolutionaries were ready to boot the Brits out of the colonies. They declared their independence and became known as the United States of America in 1776. The Revolutionary War went on from 1775 to 1783. It started with a famous ride you may have heard of. Yes, Paul Revere's. On April 18, 1775, the British General Gage sent his troops to seize the gunpowder and guns the Minutemen had been hiding in Concord, Massachusetts. Paul Revere and other riders were sent to warn the towns, "The British are coming, the British are coming." And so the war began in the battles of Lexington and Concord on the morning of April 19th. By the rude bridge that arced the flood, their flag to April breeze unfurled, here once the embattled farmer stood and fired the shot heard round the world. With the war won, the task of the new country became setting up its laws and how it would run. The Second Congress went about writing the Bill of Rights, which consisted of the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution. It was written by George Mason and passed by Congress on September 25, 1789, and ratified on December 15, 1791. What these amendments did was limit the government's power by protecting the rights of each and every citizen. These rights were the ones set forth in the Declaration of Independence, which was written by Mr. Thomas Jefferson and was ratified by the Second Continental Congress on July 4, 1776, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You may now celebrate this day with a big cookout and fireworks display. These rights, as they were so eloquently written, are also known as our civil liberties. They include freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of religious worship, and the right to bear arms, to list a few. And so our democratic government came into power. What is a democracy, you may ask? Well, it is literally rule by the people. It comes from the Greek word demos, meaning people, and kratos, meaning rule. It basically means all citizens have an equal vote or voice when it comes to making law or policy. This is why it is so important to get out and vote. It's your voice, your way of contributing by doing so, helping to change the things you don't like, starting a revolution, so to speak. Our government today consists of a president who serves a 4-year term, and if they're lucky to have gotten away with not doing anything too terribly wrong, then they can get elected to a final 4-year term. That's a total of 8 years. The body that basically watches over the president is Congress. It is made up of 435 representatives who are elected every 2 years and 100 senators who are elected every 6 years. This is considered a two-house system, or bicameral, which each of these entities serving as a check and balance on one another, hoping to keep majority rule at bay. This is where parties come into play. No, not that kind of party. These kind of parties. Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. Sounds perfect, right? Well, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. As history has shown, typically when one party is in majority in both houses and the president is also a member of that party, it can upset the balance of government. Simply put, it can make it easier for him and his party to pass or veto bills that could either be beneficial to the people of this country or vice versa. This is why the vote is set up so that 1/3 of the Senate is always up for election, so that either party can lose, win, or maintain majority. It's that checks and balances again. Today, the Republicans have the majority in Congress, but with Vote 2006 just around the corner, that could change dramatically. Maybe we should take a page from history and learn from our ancestors. We too can start a revolution and make a change for the future of all mankind. Thanks for watching Team Gaia's first installment on the US government. There'll be lots more to come, because in the end, it's our government. Get smart, America!